talking
about that because I'm
So bad at choosing.
This is super
about
small compared to the comprehensive.
this is a good thing.
That's right. Two for super.
By that just.
Tell me more. Yeah, this is the store. So I'm the director of operations. Katie Blueberry is the founder.
And we read.
Yeah, so we built all the front again. Yeah, and we just, we're doing. All right. Wow. I mean, for teachers and parents.
Okay, well, I am going to go ahead and call this meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. I'm Jen Bursick, Director of Parks, Culture, and Recreation. And I'm going to be facilitating this meeting until we have a chair elected. So welcome, welcome. Here with me, I have Jenny Wilson, who's our Senior Parks Planner. We have Jamie Oakland, who's the Public Works Parks Maintenance Supervisor. And then Carter Gibson, Executive Assistant. So just want to make sure we introduce from the city side. And then just a reminder, the purpose of this work group is to review parks expansion and replacement projects identified in the 6-year Parks Capital Improvement Program. We call that the PCIP for short, to analyze available funding options and make recommendations to the Lacey City Council. So like I said, I'm going to fill this role of the presiding officer just until we get to the business items. And so I would like to do a roll call. I will go ahead and do voting members first and then non-voting. So if we just could confirm, Mark Brown is in person.
Present.
Kathleen Cook is absent today. Jim Eichner.
Here.
Person. Karen Eidinger.
Here.
Rachel Murata. Here. And Philip Roybal.
Here.
Online. And Yvette Temple.
Here.
Sherry Wilkins.
Here.
Brooklyn McReynolds. Here. Thank you. And those are all the voting members. So we'll move to non-voting. Wendy Goodwin.
Yes, here.
Jonathan Hegwood.
Here.
You. Daphne Resloff.
Here.
Great. Ruth Weigel.
Here.
Lauren Howard.
Here.
And Haley Ortega.
Here.
Next we have our land acknowledgement, and I was just looking for a volunteer to read that land acknowledgement out loud. Anyone volunteer?
I will.
Okay, it's like, I'll do it.
You want to? No, I'm happy to let you do it. Go, okay. The Parks Improvement Funding Workgroup meets on the ancestral land of the tribal peoples of the Treaty of Medicine Creek, including the Nisqually Indian Tribe and Squaxin Island Tribe. We acknowledge and remember those tribal people not recognized today who were absorbed or relocated into other tribes for survival. We recognize the ancestors and their descendants who are still here. We recognize and respect the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek as the traditional stewards of this land since time immemorial, and their role today in taking care of these lands in perpetuity. We recognize and have the responsibility to call attention to the histories of dispossession, forced removal, and abridged treaty rights that allow our nation, state, and city to develop as they have today. We recommend that community members read the Medicine Creek Treaty of 1854.
Thank you.
Move approval of the agenda and minutes.
I'll second. Let's see that.
All those in favor?
Kat is your non-voting member.
Oh, no, I'm a voting member.
Oh, you are. It says you're non-voting.
Oh.
No, I'm a voting member. That's a boo-boo.
Yes, we have a typo on your tabletop.
All right.
I just got in trouble for it last week.
No, here we go. With
That's
the
right.
tradition.
Okay, it's
Trying
been,
to keep you on your toes. I know.
it's been moved in the second counts. So it's been moved and seconded. And so all those in favor?
Aye.
Great. And looking for a motion for approval of the August 19th minutes.
So move.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. I do not believe we had any public comment. That is correct. And it doesn't look like we have any members of the public here to make a comment. Would that be correct for online as well? Okay. And so moving on to number 6, and I'll pass it over to Jenny
So up next, we're moving into the election of officers. We have the chair and vice chair position. So just a quick note on which each role does. So the chair would run the meetings similar to what Jen's doing that right now. We would have agendas and staff would meet with you prior to the agenda. Vice chair would fill in if the chair wasn't available to attend a meeting. So at this time, I'd like to ask if anyone would like to submit a nomination for chair for this work group. And just a reminder that only voting members can nominate, motion, and vote for this, but we don't need a formal motion. You can just say you nominate some position. Interested in?
Has anyone expressed an interest to you in serving in either of these two posts?
No.
Does anybody have a burning interest in serving in one of these two posts?
I'm happy to do one of them.
I'm also happy. I serve as board chair on quite a few nonprofits and I'm familiar with it. If no one else wants to, if they do, be my guest.
Now, the chair and vice chair need to be voting members.
I'll nominate Yvette Temple.
Thank you.
For chair position, we'll start with the chair. Okay. Would you like to accept?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I was waiting for someone to say nay. Yeah, I would be happy to if that is what everyone would like.
Are there any other nominations for the chair position?
I'm looking at you, girl.
So I'd entertain a motion to elect the chair position.
So moved.
We will have a second.
Second.
Okay. And any discussion? Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And Rachel, you said you would be interested in. So I'd like to nominate Rachel Murata to serve as the commission's vice chair.
You need a second on that?
Yes.
Second.
And I have
Well,
a
let's do-
45.
Accept the nomination. Yep, let's do the acceptance nomination. Are there any other nominations for vice chair position? Okay. So then,
So
okay, so then I'd entertain a motion to elect. Yeah.
Oh, well, am I official? I thought that
Yeah,
the next
you
meeting,
voted.
so.
You can make a motion to, now we need a motion to.
Okay, yep,
elect the
I
vice
would,
chair.
I would make, like to make a motion to elect Rachel Murata as the vice chair of this.
so
meeting.
move.
I'll second it.
And any discussions? Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay. So congratulations, and I'll touch base with you guys after to go over some more meetings that will get scheduled.
Thank you. Very good work with everyone.
And then, Yvette, would you like to take over the meeting going forward, or we can start at the next?
You can go, I'm just kind of, I don't know if I printed my things out of order.
Okay,
Was it the ad hoc?
so the next, yeah, the next one up is the rules of procedure. So included in your packet this month were the draft rules of procedure. We reviewed those at the last month's meeting. So I, again, would just entertain a motion to adopt these rules of procedure for the work group. No,
So Madam Chair, I move that the draft rules of procedure be adopted.
second. Any discussion? All in favor? Say aye.
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 Great. Any opposed? Great. All right, so up next, we are going to do a little bit of a work group priorities check. I have a worksheet that I'm going to pass around for everybody.
Is this the same as the one that was emailed?
Yes, yep. Let's wait. Does everybody have a pen? Okay, so in your packet was a short worksheet with 4 questions. And these are sample questions that we ask residents during our community outreach efforts that guide and inform our comprehensive plan and the Parks Capital Improvement Program. So we'll be diving into both these items more later this evening, but we thought it'd be a good start to do an initial gut check of your thoughts and priorities to get your gears turning as we start this work together. So if you could just spend the next few minutes completing this quick questionnaire, we'll have Carter tally the results while we're doing some other business, and we'll compare those, your results to the community's results and see where everybody lines up. And then for the online participants, you should have gotten an email a few minutes ago with the survey. So if you could just email your results to Carter Gibson@cityoflacey.org, just reply to the email, that would be great.
So Jenny, just for clarity, should I be answering based on my own personal interests
Yes.
or what I might think the community would want?
Your own interest, yeah.
Oh.
So could I ask, and I apologize, not looking for sympathy, but I woke up this morning at 3:45 a.m. in Vienna, Austria, and just got home a couple hours ago, so I don't know, maybe a little brain dead. Why are we doing this?
That's okay. So you guys are gonna be doing some prioritization of community projects, right? And we did the comprehensive plan, which also they gave us their priorities. So we're basically asking you to do the same survey that the community did. So to see where your priorities are in comparison to the communities.
A
Just for
reason I
fun.
ask is
for fun.
Right.
Madam Chair, I just was curious, it seems that I'm just trying to figure out how this is value added at this moment in time as we're essentially gathering information. And at some point, after we have all that information and public participation, then we might want to strike a list of priorities. But I'm wondering about the value of doing it now at the front end rather than later in the process when we know more. So I'm just asking.
Right.
Yeah, no, good question. So this is something that's just supposed to be kind of fun and engaging. It kind of helps you learn what we've asked the community, and we want this group to be interactive and instead of just always listening to us talking, this is kind of just an engagement activity with you all. So, yeah,
It's
it won't be.
Interesting to see how like what we're bringing to the table aligns with what the community's
Yeah.
already said.
That's what I was
Yeah,
thinking.
just for fun, kind of to see, what we've asked them, and these are this isn't everything that we asked the community, but this is a good sampling of what we did. Did you have a question?
I do. When I, read this at home, it's like, I thought our role was different than what I want individually. And what I wanted to know in order to answer these questions is an inventory of what we Lacey has now to better address what might be prioritized, what's being covered, how much. So I sort of fit it into something else here.
Okay,
The
well,
priority
so,
may change depending on what Lacey already has.
gotcha. And so everybody has a different knowledge of what Lacey has.
Right.
So this is a good I guess, experience of what it's like to ask the community what they want in their park system, so.
So we're not gonna be bound to this.
No.
This is
Yeah.
anonymous, right? You don't write your
Yes,
name in, we're just gonna turn it in.
Anonymous, and we're gonna just, just kind of engage to see where this,
Yes.
Cause this says 3.
to see where this group is at compared to what we heard back from the community, just kind of for a fun evaluation.
It doesn't say which one.
Well, the community would have a preface about, you know, you need to represent your whole city block or something, so we're just for fun.
Yeah.
And just one in the first 2 categories,
Yeah, right?
just one.
Mark, which would be
Highest
the
priority,
following. I think two.
When you're done, let me know.
Highlight. Mine, so it's not.
You don't have to put your name on it. I'm done.
Oh, I can't turn mine in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just for fun, yeah. Everybody do ours.
Yes.
Easier. I'm trying to.
To get to you. Get yours. Thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Thank you.
There's one there.
So you can say to right, but not.
You would.
That one looks good. My vision these days.
That's awesome.
A couple more minutes here. Hopefully everybody attending virtually had a chance to email those in.
Endorsement rules.
City of
I just emailed them just now, I'm sorry.
City of Lacey does not.
Say too.
City of Lacey doesn't. There's just the pool at Tangle Wild. The Parks and Rec uses Timberline and Thurston for classes and stuff, but there's not a public access.
And River Ridge.
But they're not open to public for like open swim.
They do have.
Indoor
programs
playground?
that are for kids. That's what. Parks and Rec partners with all these schools and then the senior.
It's a real game changer for small children.
Slides are not. I've learned that.
There used to be out in the water, it was, I forget what it was called, but it was an indoor playground with a play shop. And so it had like a big toy that was inside and all padded around it and it was all in little pieces. And then it had little tables all around it, so you could go with friends and get a coffee and watch your kiddos play inside.
Oh, no, I'm fine. I just don't have any
Close.
content behind it.
Quiet.
That's why I was like, I'm happy to read it, but I don't have content.
That's okay.
Let me drink this
Good practice, right?
Yeah. Okay, do we have everybody's anonymous survey? Thank you. I think that's our last one. Okay. So, excuse me, next we're gonna go to 6D, Lacey Parks Culture and Recreation Comprehensive Plan. And Jen will be leading us in that.
Great, thank you so much. Let me just get the slides queued. Oops, okay. All right, yes, and great questions that you had about this little activity. So I'm gonna talk about the Parks Culture Recreation Comprehensive Plan. There's so much information in here, and that will give you everything you need to know about our park system. It is 350 pages, which includes all the attachments, and so we don't expect you to come in knowing all of that. And some of you will be ahead of others based on how long you've lived here and, you know, if you're on the Parks Board, et cetera. You might know a little bit more about our park system than others in the room. That's perfectly fine. So again, we just so appreciate your participation. So the comp plan, so why do we have this? This is part of the city's overall comprehensive plan, and this is one section of it. And the city, incidentally, is just now kicking off a 10-year update for the big comp plan. This one we do every 6 years, and what that does, it helps us really stay in tune with, you know, how are our facilities and our services and programs doing? How are they holding up? We can set goals and policies. We can assess demands and needs, and very importantly, like we've been talking about, get that public input on our park system. And the 6 years also keeps us eligible for grants through the Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office, which is you know, one of the good sources for grant funding for parks, culture, and recreation. There they are. All right. So in 2020, the Lacey City Council directed Lacey Parks to conduct extensive outreach and communication with the public in order to close communication gaps that may exist regarding priorities and to inform this comprehensive plan update. So with guidance from a consultant and involvement from stakeholders, city staff, the Parks Board, and even a special parks outreach team, Lacey Parks engaged in an extensive 2-year public outreach and engagement process, and that was during 2021 and 2022. The Parks Capital Improvement Program that Jenny is going to cover later this evening came from that input combined with the known maintenance needs to sustain current services. So all the projects in the comp plan will require some sort of public funding and will require prioritization, and so that's why we're here, like you all are here tonight. Through the process, we generally know what the community wants, and we want to be able to see the project through to the finish line with sustainable parks funding. That said, let's dive a little bit more into the specifics of the comprehensive plan and our community outreach efforts that got us here. So the comprehensive plan, like I said, is very long. It is available on our website, and again, we don't expect you all to have studied it word for word. But one of the things we wanted to point out is that we did update our vision. So our vision is to create exceptional events, experiences, and environments that delight, educate, and inspire the human spirit, connecting people to each other and the past, and building a strong, healthy community. We also talk a lot about the benefits in the executive summary. You'll be able to see these benefits here and more. Some of those are inclusion for everyone, resilience, not only environmentally, but personally. So just think of, you know, the social interactions and those things that are so important. Physical and mental health, building community access for people to play. Challenges that are outlined in the executive summary of the plan and are fleshed out a little bit throughout the plan is keeping up with growth of the population, along with that aging infrastructure, continuing to move from an acquisition phase to a development phase in Lacey. And so a good example is that the Greg Cuyo Park properties the city has had for quite some time, but there's not really good access. And so with the Greg Cuyo Park project, currently there'll be safe access off of a busy, you know, Carpenter Road and actually access to that property for its use. And then the other, and in the past, Lacey has done just a phenomenal job of picking up parks properties in all areas of Lacey, but then it's that next step of getting people out on those properties that people own. And then solidifying a future funding strategy. There's currently no funding sources dedicated to the essential park infrastructure replacement and parks development. And these rely heavily on the general fund and outside revenue sources, neither of which are sufficient to meet the needs of proposed park projects. And then to look at our community outreach efforts, it was critical that outreach play a crucial role in the development of the comp plan. So in 2021, the city conducted open-ended community outreach where there were 6,000 inputs related to parks, culture, and recreation that were received. Those ideas were used to lay the next steps. That summer in 2021, the city established a park outreach team of volunteers to help understand the community's priorities and preferences. And then they did a Parks and Recreation specific outreach where another 800 inputs were received. Using that information gained from those two forums, an actual survey was sent out in October 2021, where 1,200 residents answered questions about where they'd like to see Parks and Recreation and Lacey grow. So based on those results, another survey was conducted in 2022 to drill down even further on specific community priorities and preferences and more specific questions as far as where maybe a location of a project would be. So this is the most robust outreach that we've done to date in our department, and we've received the most input than we ever have. So that's, as we, of course, are always looking for better and more ways to reach out to the public, has been a really good engagement effort that we could update our comprehensive plan with. So like Jenny explained earlier, that quick questionnaire you completed was derived directly from one of the community surveys that was sent out during this process. And so next we're going to take a look at how we compare and just kind of talk through some of those things. Of course, if Carter's ready for that. 2/3 of them are working. 2/3 are working? Okay. Do you want a little more time and we'll come back to it?
It's the third question, so.
Oh, okay. Okay. So this is a kind of a test. We've never done this before, so pardon our technical difficulties, but we'll just see how this goes. So question 1, in a previous survey, community members expressed interest in several broad parks and recreation improvements. Please mark which of the following would be your highest priority for Lacey. Oh, I'm sorry. So blue is gonna be your work group and green is the community responses.
So can you remind us what those categories are? I can't read them from
Yes.
here.
Yes, absolutely. You betcha. We're trying to refresh the data here real quick. Oh, should we remind us where to refresh this?
You have to select the chart. And then chart design.
Oh.
and then refresh.
Oh, maybe
covered by the
it's,
window.
oh.
That would be why.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did that work?
So we're blue and the community is green.
Blue is your work group and the green is the community. Yeah, correct. So from this chart, we can see. Oh. Don't worry, we have a backup plan.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one with these issues.
Click off of it. Yeah, you're like not actually clicking. You need to go to PowerPoint. I think you're on the screen share screen, so you're not actually clicking.
You need to stop sharing.
Does that work? Like if you just click off of that chart. Yes, see, that's why I think you're not actually. PowerPoint screen. So you're in Zoom
To the
right now.
last chart.
So,
Right, so stop sharing your screen
oh,
and then go to PowerPoint.
What if she goes over to slide 4 and then tries to go back in?
oh, yeah.
The whole thing.
Oh, everything's frozen. Oh.
That's the issue.
Oh, okay.
That's
And it won't even close.
not a problem. I would just have to exit out of PowerPoint. I think this is a fluke not related to anything with the
Okay.
charts.
We'll be right back with you. Hold on one second.
So we just need to exit that.
I know, this is like
I don't think
very
it's
weird.
letting us, yeah, like, just.
Wheel of death.
Delete. and force it to shut down.
A new laptop at work recently and I was.
So you right click on PowerPoint.
40 slide deck, the presentation, and it just popped up it's time to restart your computer. And I was like, no, it's not. There's 170 people in this room. Of course it is. We shan't
Well,
be
mine.
restarting. Yeah, you need to hold your horses, Lenovo. Makes it a little more. I had it for a few days.
Sports still go higher?
You get a little back,
but we still.
like that. You're like, oh no, we've done it. We've restarted. You're
just gonna have to control alt delete.
We can move forward with
Just
this
say-
device.
Were the green or were the blue?
We're the blue.
Nope.
I thought we were the green.
It's been-
Community is green.
Community's
Oh,
great.
yeah, work group is blue.
Oh.
No, it's okay.
to me.
No worries. And, yeah. And task. See if that takes care of it. But then we just need to go right back in.
It's too many slides, yeah.
I need this thing.
You haven't got it back. Yeah.
What if it refreshed?
Did you refresh it? Click refresh. Is it actually working in the PowerPoint? Sorry, I can't see from over there. Was it working a second ago? The PowerPoint?
We just opened it.
But did it automatically come up to this slide? Can you use your PowerPoint? Sorry, I just can't see lines.
No.
Well, what about today's beautiful weather?
So nice.
Hey, guys. We're just trying to do something fun.
It's better than the rain the past couple days. Yay.
Okay. Well, I think what we should do is probably just finish our presentation and then we'll see if we can come back to the data. So if not this time, we'll figure it out for your next meeting.
What was the one that had the large discrepancy?
Sports, oh,
Well, so your data was never loaded in.
Oh, I wasn't, okay, that makes more sense. I was like, that's really different.
yeah.
So but the green that we saw really is the community responses?
Yes,
Yes,
the green is
yeah.
accurate, the blue is not.
Okay.
We're not gonna click.
Did we
I'm
lose
not
the
gonna click on
green?
the.
I don't think we're recording anymore. Are we still recording?
Yeah.
Oh,
You
okay.
just
We are.
screen sharing, yeah.
Yep, we're just not.
Hi, internet friends.
Okay, so we will, yeah.
Share.
we'll go back to our presentation and then we'll circle back on this interesting activity.
Do not click on the table.
Yeah, don't click on the table. We'll see if that helps. I don't know. Sure. All right. And did you shared it, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so do not pay attention to the blue, but yeah, if you wanna review what the public said for this survey is, you know, swimming pool, something I wanted to mention is that, and those of you that have done a lot of work with our department, we schedule and utilize the North Thurston Public Schools pools. There are 3 of them, and they are geared for students and swim teams, and so the temperatures are cooler. So for like toddler swim lessons, they're you know, it's a challenge for sure. Also availability and accessibility during the day. It's obviously for students first and for the for PE classes and for swim teams and then other swim clubs after that. And so there are some challenges with that. And then the public also said, preserving open space, more indoor recreation facilities, expanding walking trails. So those were some of the top line. And then, the question 2, community also expressed interest in pursuing 4 major parks and recreation investment targets as listed below. Please mark which of the following would be your top priority. And here we have, continuing to offer affordable recreation programming, which we do. We have new indoor facilities at existing park locations. And then next comes the new outdoor features at existing parks. And then securing additional parks came in last. And again, I think to that point earlier that I said, there is a lot of park acreage available. It's just getting or owned by the public. It's just a matter of getting people out there. Question 3. What other types of outdoor parks recreation features would you like to see in Lacey? And so you can see where the green items are coming in there. We've got spray parks over there on the right and enhanced water access, kind of up taller there, walking trails, outdoor swimming pool, nature play areas, some of those top line themes. And then what types of indoor recreation options would you like to see in Lacey? And so some of our top percentages for responses are, you can see the indoor swimming pool first there, indoor playgrounds, indoor ice skating rink, teen center. And then the senior centers over there. It's kind of those higher priorities. And then so again, relying on guidance from a consultant, involvement from city staff, the Parks Board, a special parks outreach team, and taking into account the community input, there came the comprehensive plan. And again, the Parks Capital Improvement Program that Jenny will cover, but these strategic goals also came out of this work. And those were past strategic goals that were updated with the input from all the stakeholders. And so our 5 strategic goals as listed in the comp plan. And as I mentioned earlier, there are policies and goals around each of these, but developing high quality, equitable, diversified parks, culture, and recreation system where physical, financial, social, and cultural barriers are eliminated and includes unique facilities, events, and recreation and cultural programs. The second one there, prioritizing Lacey Parks projects and facilities, identifying corresponding current and future funding sources, is what we're working on here. Leveraging investments and partnerships and maintaining Lacey's eligibility for grant funding. Number 3 there, developing a trail system that interconnects park, schools, neighborhoods, open spaces, other trail systems, and important public facilities. Number 4 here, educating and engaging the public with the heritage of Lacey and the South Sound region through mission-driven programs and exhibits, and by preserving sites and artifacts of historical and cultural importance, making them accessible to the community. So this speaks to more our Lacey Museum and Historical Commission side of the operation. And then number 5, they're utilizing sustainable systems and practices that ensure the environmental, economic, social, and cultural needs and desires of future generations will not be compromised. And so that's a quick summary of the 350-page comprehensive plan. And some of our recent community outreach efforts. And so next, but I'll be happy to answer any questions you have at this point. And then I'm gonna hand it over to Jamie.
The survey done in 2022, has there been any redirection with the parks in the last 2 years since these results came in?
No, so what happened is well, actually, we have had some recent public input with the city's comp plan that are gotten some similar input, but essentially, we finished up the outreach in 2022, and then in 23, we spent that year updating the comprehensive plan and getting it out, having it reviewed by all the boards, updating the public, and then going to final adoption by council in late August of that year. And so.
And sus here, okay.
Yes, and developing, this group and the parameters for this group came next, and then, but we have our CED department, Community and Economic Development, has been doing outreach for that 10-year city comprehensive plan. Well, You're on the planning commission. You probably know all about that. But yes, they have been out at events and receiving input and they've been sharing that with us as well.
I think Mark had a question.
Oh, thank you. I've got a lot of questions, but I'm just gonna ask three. In the earliest slide, you talked about the challenges, including, stable funding. I would be curious to know whether there are any dedicated revenue sources on the operating side other than user fees. Second question is, Jenny had sent this out to us actually a few weeks ago, and I had a chance to look through it. And I was a bit surprised by the inclusion of the question regarding park rangers. And wondering if there is in fact a safety issue that is either real or perceived, because either one is real. But I'm just wondering where that has come from and what kind of drives that. And then finally, if I could, just one more. I know there have been a number of studies done on barriers to inclusion focused on Parks and Rec. National Park Service did one. We did one at state parks in collaboration with the University of Washington just a couple of years ago. But is there any specific Lacey data that we've gathered that answers the question of what are the barriers to inclusion in Parks and Rec programs here? So those are three.
Yeah, so the first one, so the only funding we have for parks is general fund. Not the only, but for ongoing operating, it is general fund. So there's.
And user fees.
And yes, we do offset, we charge fees, we cover direct costs with our fees, with our user fees. General fund dollars, as you probably all know, can change where they're allocated to. So when you say dedicated, I mean, traditionally, we have had we have budget in the general fund and we can share what those numbers are. And Jamie's gonna talk about the maintenance side of it. But when we are looking at the comp plan, that challenge is like sustainable funding that has to be used for parks. That's something that's more stable than general fund dollars. And then we supplement with user fees, grants, sponsorships, and we'll get into more funding discussion at our next meeting when we have the finance director here. The second question, park rangers. So there are cities who have park rangers. Maintenance staff don't currently, their job responsibility isn't to make sure that people are following the rules. We rely on people to follow the park rules. And we also have police. So that's what happens if there's an emergency or a concern that is urgent, it's 911 call. And some municipalities and government agencies have the in-between of park rangers. And I know, for example, Olympia has those and those are funded by their Metropolitan Park District. And so it's just a question that we've asked in surveys is, do you feel safe in the parks and kind of how does something like that fall in with priorities? It hasn't been a huge priority from what we can tell from our surveys for Lacey. And the general feedback is that people feel safe in their parks. I will say from our standpoint, it is difficult to get people to follow the rules sometimes. So it's definitely a challenge. Your third question, so barriers to inclusion, we have asked, we did ask in one of the surveys, if they felt that they had barriers to participation, and the overwhelming response, and we can look up that particular question in the data that we got, but those surveyed anyway did not have major access concerns. To answer your question.
Michelle, do you have a question? Follow-up question on that.
Yes.
Did you collect demographic data in that survey?
Yes.
And that was true across the spectrum of respondents, that people didn't feel like there were barriers, or were there higher responses for some groups?
So I have to look that up, but I can bring that back. So if that's something that this group would like to see, I can definitely, I don't have the data right off the top of my head, so I want to make sure that I'm giving you the right information, so. That would be a great thing to dig into. Other questions? Yes.
Adding on to that, as far as the demographic data, but also maybe where we got the data, was it in-person events or like online or something? I think it would be helpful to see where it was sourced from. So we can kind of double check that we hit the inclusion factor or the true spectrum of the demographic that we're trying to represent.
Good. Okay. Jamie, I'm gonna pass this over to you.
Well, we are flying through this. Okay, that was easy. We're halfway done. Thank you. Okay, perfect. My name's Jamie. I'm the Parks Maintenance Supervisor. It really is my privilege to be here tonight to share a little bit about who we are in Parks Maintenance, what we do. A lot of it is probably what you would assume. You would assume who we are, what we do, but not necessarily all of it. So hopefully gonna add some clarity, some details for you. So as you learned last week, Parks Maintenance is housed under Public Works and not under the Lacey Parks Culture and Recreation Department. So we are a separate department. Our department has 3 different divisions. So 2 of the 3 are what you would assume. We have an athletic complex division that maintains the regional athletic complex, and then also Rainier Vista Community Park. And then we have a parks team that maintains the other 20 developed parks, in addition to all of the Lacey facilities. So the Jacob Smith House, Community Center, Senior Center, this building, we maintain all the grounds here. So those are the 2 teams that do all their work within the parks. Probably what you weren't aware of is that the 3rd division within our department doesn't have anything to do with parks. And so this is our right-of-way maintenance team, and they have kind of 3 primary areas of responsibility. So their first is right-of-way landscape maintenance. So all of the roundabouts, medians, streetscapes that are formally part of city development projects, we inherit that responsibility. So we maintain 35 miles of right-of-way landscapes in the city. We also work with the water and the wastewater department to maintain 76 of their properties. So the water department has 19 properties where they either produce or store drinking water, and we maintain the grounds there. And then the wastewater department has 57 sites where they are managing and transporting wastewater throughout the city, and we maintain the grounds there. And the last area of responsibility within this team is a 2-person team called the Rapid Response Team. It's a fairly new, started in 2021, a newer team to the city. They work really closely with the Community Resource Unit in the Lacey Police Department to respond to homeless related issues within the city. So sometimes, yeah, it's on park property. Most of the time it's not. And so that's a little bit about kind of our wide umbrella that extends, well beyond just the parks. So maybe clarify that for you even a little bit further. So as I mentioned, we have the 2 athletic complexes plus 20 other developed parks for a total of 22 developed parks. We have 4 trail properties and then 9 undeveloped parks. So just like Jen was just referring to, the city of Lacey has been in an acquisition phase for my entire career, where we have been acquiring property to designate for future park development, which is awesome. We have almost 1,300 acres of park property, but you can see from the pie chart, most of that property is undeveloped property. So when you combine all of our total areas of responsibilities, when you add in the water, wastewater sites, the right-of-ways, the developed parks, the undeveloped parks, all the facilities, we maintain approximately 1,400 acres of property within the city. So to do that, we have a staff of 33.5 FTEs. So that's 21.5 permanent full-time employees, and then an army of temporary seasonals. So we rely really heavily on hiring temporary 6-month seasonal employees. It's 12 FTEs, but that equates to usually, this year it's 37 people. It took 37 people to fill those, just because of turnover, to fill those 12 FTEs.
Jamie, before you move on, if I may, I'm just not tracking that very last bullet. So you've got 12 temporary or seasonal, but then in the brackets, what's the 24-35 mean?
Yeah, so this is 12. This would be the equivalent of 12 positions. So 2,080 hours would be 1 FTE, would be 1 position. So we have 12 positions that are we have that many hours funded. It takes us 35 people to fulfill all of those hours. Does that make sense?
So long part-time.
Yeah, a lot of part-time. So some of them work 20 hours a week, some of them work 40 hours a week, some of them are here for a week, some of them are here for a couple months, some of them are here for the full 6 months. And so it is a constantly revolving door, unfortunately. Takes a lot of time to train and get people up to speed. But they're super important to our success. So no, last week, or excuse me, not last week, your last meeting, we had a little bit of a budget discussion. I'm gonna just Troy's gonna be here next meeting to really dive into the details of the budget, but kind of general, 10,000 foot view, what does it look like? The regional athletic complex has just over $1 million operating budget for maintenance. Our rapid response team has a $310,000 operating budget, and then $4.1 million for kind of the rest of the parks department, so Raina Vista and the remaining parks. So add them together, we're roughly around $5.5 million operating budget for parks.
And then add just quickly the Parks, Culture, Recreation, and then
Yep.
community buildings.
Yep.
Is another, so that doubles to approximately $10 million.
Yep.
So that's the annual operating budget for everything.
Can you distinguish the difference between your division's role in rapid response and what the Lacey PD's non-police response would be?
Yeah.
Because they have a non-police response.
Yeah, mobile outreach team.
Yeah, so
yeah,
what,
good.
how does that delineate
Great.
itself from one another?
I'll just kind of tackle it now. Is that okay? So I would say that we work hand in hand with all three teams. So we have the rapid response team, the community resource unit, and then the mobile outreach team. So depending on, I would say the community resource unit is the preferred point of first contact. And so they will go in, make contact, offer services, work with people to figure out what it is they're trying to, what their needs are. And then also from an enforcement standpoint, if they are, violating city ordinance, then they'll also advise them of, hey, you can't camp here, or you need to move along, or you can't do that type of thing. And so in the event of that first contact determines they do need resources and they're willing to accept them, then they'll defer to the mobile outreach team, who will then come in, work with them to provide the resources that they need or are looking for and are willing to accept. In the event that they're not necessarily looking for resources, our rapid response team is there to kind of come behind and clean up afterwards. So if they are asked to move and they don't have the resources or the willingness to move everything that they left in that place, that's where we come in. We come in behind and we'll clean up the
So
area.
like the camps on Slater Kenny Road, like that cleanup type?
Yeah,
of-
so if it's on public property,
Mhm.
then that would fall to the rapid response team. So we do a lot of work on, on kind of on-ramp, off-ramp DOT properties, lots of work. This team is responsible for cart collection. We collect like 900 carts a year and sanitize them and return them to the stores. And so we spend a lot of time, collecting and sanitizing carts, so. Does that help?
Yeah.
And then I'll specify, if it is DOT property, that means that the city would have already had an agreement
Correct.
with Washington State.
Yeah, I was just curious where the, like, sort of the roles lined up with those,
Yeah.
all of that response. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, so labor distribution. So we kind of talked about our areas of responsibility. Now let's talk about what that means from an actual labor distribution standpoint. So this is probably what you would expect. 3/4 of labor in our department goes towards maintaining our parks. So we're looking at 26% of the labor in our department is spent in the combined area of right-of-ways, rapid response team, and then water, wastewater, grounds maintenance. So what do we do when we're maintaining the parks? A little bit of everything, and it depends on who was there before us. So I will, sorry, Jason, I'm gonna cover you up, buddy. So the primary task that our department is involved with is what we call daily rounds. So that means we visit every park every single day, and we service the restrooms, make sure that they're clean and sanitary, check every single trash can. If it's full, make sure it gets emptied, and then collect whatever debris or whatever was left in the park from that day or the day before. And so these are just 3 pictures from last year of things that were left in our parks or a bathroom. And it's not uncommon that we find bathrooms like this or worse. And so, a park like Long Lake Park is a perfect example. Tomorrow, it's gonna take 5 minutes to go to Long Lake Park and pick up litter. 2 months ago to this date, if you went in the middle of July, it was probably a 45-minute job, depending on, how many people were there using the park. And so really the kind of conditions of the day are always unknown until you show up. And so Daily rounds is our most labor intensive task that we do. After that, it's things that you would expect. So, turf maintenance, tree work, grounds maintenance, trail blowing, hard surfaces, making things safe. Equipment maintenance, irrigation, sports fields would be, anything outside of turf maintenance. So that would be, moving soccer goals, moving fences or mounds or painting lines on fields, things of that nature. And then building, anyways, then you get kind of through a list of less labor intensive things, but all things that are super important to keep our parks at a high service level. So you'll notice we talked earlier about having 33.5 FTEs. Well, when you actually just count up the time actually worked, it's lower than that, right? It's just under 30 FTEs. So we'll come back to that. That's going to be important in a second. So that's who we are and what we do very, very quickly. Let's talk about some of the challenges. So I want to talk about 6 kind of core challenges to our department, just really, really briefly. Funding, rules violations, staffing, deferred maintenance, aging park assets, and then just kind of the working with a park system that's getting older while more people are moving and using our parks. And so if I could find my button here,
Just click sometime.
we'll be moving right along.
How many, can I ask how many structures we have in parks?
Sure, as in picnic shelters, we have 17 picnic shelters. And then bathroom structures, that's a good one, you might have me there.
We can pull it up from the comp plan.
I know we have 84 individual bathroom units, but how many bathroom structures? That's a good question. Let's see.
And do we use the what is it called, building condition index, that measuring tool for knowing exactly how substantial our deferred maintenance situation is?
Oh, you are about to be underwhelmed by that answer. So I'll get there in 1 second.
And we have an inventory in the comp plan. We can pull that up if we need to, so you don't have to remember.
I promise I'll address that. Go ahead.
A broader question.
Yeah.
Is it typical that parks maintenance would be part of public works? Is that normal?
No,
So,
the vast majority of parks departments include park maintenance.
Does it help us with economies of scale a little bit in that you're more diversified, you can have a larger staff, maybe manage the seasonal? Is it a benefit for us as we consider where we want to put our money? Does it provide
It's a great
a
question.
dollar benefit for us by
Yeah.
having you part of public works?
I would say Jen might have a very different perspective on this. I would say from an operations and maintenance standpoint, it is very economical in that we can't afford a dump truck or a backhoe, but the water department sure can, and the water department has a couple of them, and we work out of the same building, the same shop, and so all we have to do is sign out that dump truck and that backhoe, and now we have a tool and a resource that we otherwise would not have had. And so absolutely there are significant advantages to being housed under public works. There's the flip side of that coin that Jen, I'm sure, would be more than happy to speak to, because it does require absolutely extra communication, and there are times when, that ball just candidly does get dropped in between the recreation side and the event coordination side and the kind of the execution side on the maintenance side, so.
So
Right.
I'm sorry, to clarify,
That's okay.
I'm very new to city works, but if you were under parks, you wouldn't be able to borrow that equipment? Or it would be a more challenging ask to
That'll be-
utilize that equipment?
That's a great question, and I don't have, all I've ever known is working within the public works
Got it.
branch, right? I don't know what other jurisdictions do where parks is housed within the Parks Culture Recreation Division, so I'm not sure what they do if they have to,
Yeah.
if
I
they
think-
have to.
And I
Maybe
have
a
worked in,
request or something.
I have worked in departments where everything's housed in the same department, and there is some use of other city assets. It's not like it's completely separate, even if you're in separate departments, so. But this is our current format is such that it is.
Yeah.
We work, pretty well together in
I hope so, yeah.
pulling off this huge
Yeah.
park system, so.
Okay, so I would say challenge number one, absolutely greater than all others combined is funding, truly. And so I want to kind of speak to that on 2 different levels. The first level is just recognizing 2 things. First, we operate within within 96% of our budget on average over the last 7 years. So if you take out these 2 years of 2020 and 2021, where we significantly reduced our seasonal hirings due to COVID restrictions, you can see we are funded really closely to our need. And so
Funded what?
closely to the need. So I mean, there's not a lot of additional resources left at the end of the year that we're like, hey, what should we do with this? It's always funding gets cut off at the end of October or end of November, and usually by October, we are like, we can't spend anymore because we have to pay November's and December's bills, right? Oh no. The thing I really want to point out though, is you can see from 2017 to 2023, we've added almost $1.5 million to our overall parks budget. Not a single new person. We have not added any new staff. And so that is $1.5 million of, added labor costs through inflation, added benefits costs, keeping up with just inflation in general. And so you can see that just as a city, trying to continue to fund this service is an increasing demand without even adding people to the problem, right? So what does that mean specifically for Lacey? It means it's even more challenging than you probably might be aware. And one significant reason is that our Parks Department is funded, Troy is gonna speak to this next week, through the general fund. So you all are very well aware that you pay a water bill and you pay a sewer bill and you pay a stormwater bill. And all of those fees go directly towards the services that wherever you live is providing for you. And those fees cover the costs of the operations, the maintenance, the construction, the engineering, the development. They cover those costs. Those are enterprise funds. We are not that. And so we are a parks department. When you go to Wonderwood Park to take a walk or walk your dog, or when you go to the rack to watch your son or grandson play, you just show up and you get to enjoy it for free. And the city has to provide that service through other funding sources. And so that is the general fund. I'm sure Troy's gonna talk all about it next week. Essentially, those are taxes and fees that the city collects that then they have to distribute amongst like core primary services. So like very important police department, streets, parks culture, recreation, the engineering department here, our permitting and planning department, the city's financial and administrative functions, like all of those, all of those critical services and resources all are housed under the general fund. And so sales tax revenue is a very large contributor to that funding. And so what does that mean for Lacey? Well, we are the 23rd largest city in the state of Washington. We have a sales tax per capita rate of 105. That is a significant discrepancy. So our neighbor, City of Olympia, is the 24th largest city in the state. One ranking behind us, yet they are the 35th when it comes to sales tax revenue per capita. So what does that mean? That means that if we had this rate of sales tax revenue per capita in Lacey, we'd have an extra $10.8 million per year in our general fund budget. And you all might not even be sitting here. We might not even be having this conversation. But the truth of the matter is, that's a very real deficiency within Lacey that contributes to a competition for funding within the general fund. Does that make sense? Troy will make a lot more sense of it next week. So when you're short on money, what do? You have less people. They are our absolute most important resource as a city. They're also our most expensive. And so what does that mean? When you compare Lacey's Parks Maintenance Department to the national average for parks maintenance departments for agencies our size, or cities our size, we have 30% fewer employees. So what does that mean from a kind of grounds maintenance standpoint? So there is no national park standard that would be the benchmark when it comes to acres maintained. And so we have to rely on, it's called the APPA. It's the Association of Physical Plant Administrators. And so that is college, universities, and then city government facilities. And they have a standard that we compare to when it comes to establishing service levels. And so our goal would be to provide the highest service level possible for the public, right? And so there's a 5-tier level of service levels provided. And so we fall at 18.1 acres per person within our department, which puts us essentially right in the middle of this middle service level. Does that make sense? So what happens when we build Cuyo Park next year? We add 139 acres of developed park property. We have asked for a person to maintain that. If we're lucky, we might get it. If we do get that person to maintain the park, even with that added person, that number is gonna go up to 22.2 acres per person, which puts you, oh no, right at the threshold of dropping to the next service level category, right? And so development is great, but not always a good thing when it comes to maintaining service levels.
That's a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there any use of like technology, like cameras or things like that to maybe prevent the on-site looks? You know, maybe if you obviously you can't put a camera in a bathroom, but you know, you could catch that graffiti if you had some parks cameras or something that would minimize the need to send a physical body out to look for things. Is there any?
Yeah, our simple answer is yes. We do have cameras in 2 parks with a project that's funded, just working its way through engineering to add additional cameras. But the vast majority of the parks do not have cameras. So,
I have a question. Based on bringing in new parks, as we were talking about, does the equipment or how we plan to use the parks, does that matter for the maintenance team? If you say put in a swing set, you know, the whole playground equipment versus a bike trail,
sure.
does that matter to maintenance staff, budget wise?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the assets that you decide to construct are gonna need to be maintained, and whatever it is that needs to be maintained requires different types of equipment and different types of time commitments, right? So you put in grass requires a weekly maintenance. You put in picnic shelters, those require daily maintenance. Bathrooms require daily maintenance. Trails require sometimes once a year, honestly. You're picking litter on them regularly, but only once a year are we, you know, resurfacing the trail, things of that nature, so.
So if we went more towards having like tables versus bathrooms, that's better for us to think about as far as.
Yeah, unless you're using the park and you need a bathroom.
Yeah, as far as maintaining though, I mean,
Yeah.
keeping up something, I
Yeah.
mean, just to think in the back of our mind, if you start putting certain things in there, it's more for you to have to maintenance
Sure.
if we build it.
Yep,
It's that great balance between
100%.
what the public wants in their parks and what we can pull off. And,
Yep.
and so I will say for Great Cuyo Park, for example, Jamie's been very instrumental in helping with that, the design for that park and seeing what those implications will be.
Yeah, cause I know conversations about having a honey bucket versus having flushing toilets, and you gotta mitigate the waters for all that, and all of that costs money, so that's in the phasing process, but just to be clear as we move forward, that people understand that the builds of what we're asking, I mean, those are not only for right now, but into the future, you have to maintain that as a, and if you're telling us right now, it's already gonna be this much more, everything you do for your budget is going to be impacted going forward. Inflation will keep impacting.
Especially with indoor.
Yes, the pool, I mean, I know everybody wants an indoor pool, but that's, I mean, that's something to think about is there's a lot of investment in that.
Okay, so another significant challenge for our department is rules violations, specifically vandalism, graffiti. So just today, crew set out this morning, checked the parks, and I get a call by 8 o'clock. We've had, 3 different bathrooms at 2 different parks with graffiti overnight. And so what does that mean? It means we spend a lot of time, usually 350, 380 hours a year, redoing the same thing over and over and over again, repainting the same bathroom that we painted the week ago and the week before that and the week even before that. And so, year to date, 69 acts of graffiti, 10 acts of vandalism, 4 thefts in the city property. So that's a challenge for us that, yeah.
Do we put that these are monitored by cameras?
I'm not sure of the legal
Where we-
ramifications of posting that where there are no cameras. But in the
No, but
parks
I
where we
mean,
do
if
have,
we-
in the parks where we do have cameras, yeah, it's posted.
Do you see them not vandalized as much?
No, not at all. Yeah, they're just, yeah, yep. Okay, Mark, here's the answer to your question. So deferred maintenance is another significant challenge for our department. And if I could use a personal anecdote, maybe to help kind of articulate this. So I have 6 kids. And we were celebrating my daughter last week, and so I brought home a box of those ice cream cones, the drumsticks, you know what I'm talking about? Oh, super generous. Well, except there's 8 in a box, okay? And so I have 6 kids and 8 ice cream cones. And so what does that mean? It means great, everybody gets 1 with 2 left over. And so the 1 per person is not the problem. The problem is the 2 left over. And so now it becomes the competition at the Oakland household for what happens with the extra 2 ice cream cones, right? Does everybody get a third? Yeah, right. So, welcome to being in the general fund. That is just the truth of the matter. And so I can tell you right now that the finance director and city manager are working hard because they have 12 different requests that are submitted for next year for full-time permanent employees in the general fund. They're gonna be lucky to fund 1 of those. So how do you choose which one it is? And how do you begin to even prioritize? 2 of those are within our department. And so, I'm sorry, I think it's 16. It is 16. 16 positions are being requested next year for the general fund. I believe that's true. Troy can probably clarify. The point of the matter is, competing for the funds is very difficult. And so what does that mean? It means that for the most part, our department has operated in a run to fail mode, which means we're not able to acquire the resources regularly enough that we need to keep replacing these assets as they depreciate until when? Until they've reached a point of critical failure. Then that rises to the level of, okay, this is important enough now, we have to fund it. Does that make sense? We don't have the privilege of putting all of these, to your point, Mark, all of these buildings and assets on a depreciation schedule and replacing them before they depreciate, before they reach a point of critical failure. We can't do that financially as a city, but we're heading that direction. And so the answer to your question, Mark, is we are headed that direction. So this fall, we have contracted a consultant to come in and do a facility condition assessment in our parks. And so they're gonna evaluate every asset in the parks, assign it a grade, this is what condition it's in, and then assign it a life cycle. This is how long we expect it to last. From that, we're gonna plug that into a new asset management system that will not only be able to continue to track the preventative maintenance that we do, but it'll be able to kind of, okay, the more we do preventative maintenance, the longer we're gonna extend the life cycle of this asset, right? And so it's going to continue to balance that equation to give us an expected life cycle for these assets so that we can more appropriately prepare and plan for the budget to replace these things. So,
Question?
yeah.
I'm curious on deferred maintenance in particular. When I went on the State Parks Commission 13 years ago, the deferred maintenance backlog was approaching $1 billion.
Yeah, I bet.
But there's over 2,000 structures in state parks, plus roads and all of these other assets that we have to maintain. But I was able to see over the time I was on the commission, things got better.
Yeah, great.
You know, we went to the legislature and got supplemental funding targeted specifically to deferred maintenance. The building condition index was a D when I went on the commission. Now it's about a C+. I mean, it's a huge gap.
Yeah.
From how long have you worked for Parks here?
20 years.
Pardon me?
20 years.
So Jamie, is the deferred maintenance situation getting better, or is it worse?
Yeah.
And do we have a dollar value that we could assign? If I'm going to speak to the Rotary
Yeah.
and tell them we need more parks funding,
Yeah.
I could say, what's we got a
Yeah.
$50 million, $100 million deferred maintenance
Got
backlog.
it.
What's that number?
Perfect. Okay. I'm gonna answer your second question first, and then the next slide will address your first question. So we're working on a number. So I'll tell you that. So we have a PCIP that Jenny's gonna talk about next that has a number of, that's our capital development plan that includes some deferred maintenance. But we're waiting for this facility condition assessment to really come through and kind of substantiate what we think is in our deferred maintenance roster. So right now, $3.2 million is what we would say, this is our current deferred maintenance load. And so this is on top of what's in the PCIP. And so that number are just things that I could put on a spreadsheet and say, from my very limited technical professional experience, this parking lot here needs replaced.
Yeah.
So
Keen observation.
I would imagine that list is gonna go up once you have a professional doing the
Which one is
evaluation.
that? Which parking lot?
This is Wanchers Park. right here.
Where is Wanchers Park?
Wanchers Park is, good question. on Hicks Lake,
Oh.
on the west side of Hicks Lake over by the
Oh.
boat launch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
There's
it's
so many that I don't realize have like official names and
Yep.
things, so.
Is outsourcing considered or cost effective to assist with this?
good. Outsourcing as far as services, providing services.
Emptying trash,
Okay,
cleaning
yeah.
restrooms, that sort of thing,
Yeah.
maybe that are
I would-
difficult for you to maintain quality staffing in,
Yeah.
you know, with temps and things like that.
Yeah, no, it's not. So, I mean, as a public agency, it's prevailing wage work, and so that is yeah. It would be more costly to do it.
Okay.
Contracted. So Mark, to answer your first question now, where are we headed with regards to deferred maintenance? Are we getting better or getting worse? And so what this hopes to communicate with you is a timeline. And so these are our playgrounds. And so what you can see is in this first category here, we have two different parks, Bush and Thornberry, that have 25-year-old playgrounds currently. And so these two dots, the reason they're dots is because these are funded for replacement. We're in the process, as Jen mentioned earlier, of getting those replaced. Thornberry would be next, where we would seek funding to replace these two playgrounds that are 25 years old. What do you notice in this big, huge group here? You notice that between 2003 and 2008, just before the recession, what did Lacey do? Invested a ton of resources into our parks, which is awesome. The problem is all those assets are depreciating at the same rate. And we are coming up on, at the end of this PCIP, the next PCIP that follows it is it's going to be significantly more deferred maintenance driven than it is capital improvement driven, because all of these assets, Jen just mentioned that Bush play toy is gonna be $442,000, I think. Is that what you mentioned today? Yeah. And so if you figure on average, 5 years from now, each one of these is gonna be a $500,000 investment. That's $10 million just in play toys from 2030 to 2035. And so your answer, Mark, is we've kind of been at a status quo because a lot of our parks development is kind of younger, it's newer. And now as our parks are maturing and aging, it's time to start replacing these initial assets that were constructed. And so that's going to be, you're gonna see deferred maintenance go up unless we do something about it. Yep.
On that, for that, all of the facilities in that big yellow area.
Yeah.
Is the consultant work going to also identify if there are any areas where minor improvements could be done to extend the useful life of some of that stuff?
Yeah.
To kick it down the road?
Yeah, so that would be not the consultant, no, but the new asset management software that we're bringing on. That is entirely the purpose of that, is to help us quantify from a data standpoint, the preventive maintenance that we do, how does that prolong the life of these assets? And so that is 100% the purpose of why we're switching to that. I was told I had 10 minutes. We are way past that, so.
Very important.
That's all I have.
Very helpful information.
Are there any other questions?
Good report.
You're very helpful.
Thanks, Jamie. Yeah.
So thank you, Jamie. We're gonna move on to Jenny with the Parks Capital Improvement Program overview.
That's a tough act to follow.
Nicely done, Jamie.
Yeah, that was really good. Thank you. Okay, so up next, we have the PCIP. And this is the 6-year list of capital projects and major replacements. We'll start with the new capital projects on this slide. And this is a list of projects that we're going to be asking you to prioritize. The intention tonight is just to present the list for you to start thinking about, and we'll go into more depth at a future meeting, specifically at the October 14th meeting. And we'll talk more about what's involved and included in the projects. So these projects were listed in the comp plan. And it's important to note a few things about this. In the comp plan, which we did, worked on a couple of years ago, they were listed by estimated year, and here we've removed the year and we've put them in alphabetical order, mainly because you guys are going to be doing the prioritization of them. Each one has the cost estimate for the project and then the ongoing maintenance and operation costs, which is an annual ongoing costs for each project. Some of the projects have been funded, so they're not included on the list to be prioritized. So if you've looked at the comp plan and you don't see a project that is not on here, that's why. Some of these estimates, both in the project cost and in the M&O were determined at a pretty high level. So once a project scope and details become more defined, the costs get more defined. So just keep in mind that they're pretty high level. In the comp plan, the PCI, the projects are often broken out over a few years with a separate cost for master planning, planning and design, and then the construction project. Just for the ease of organizing and prioritizing, we've combined them all together. They all have to get done to get to construction. So that's why you might see them listed 3 different times in the comp plan. Right, try to simplify it. So some of the projects here, just to highlight the Greg Cuyo Park next phase. So this would finish phase 1, and it really speaks to the need for access to trails and other amenities through the master planning process. You'll see in here that there's 4 spray parks or splash pads, and this really speaks to the need for outdoor water opportunities. It was pretty highly rated in the outreach that we did. There's also a pool and indoor playground partnership that is referring to the recreation components for the Young Child and Family Center. And that's really indoor recreation needs of the community. And it has a placeholder of $5 million. In addition, there's the Meridian Park Sports Field and other improvements on the list. And other significant projects, Long Lake Park development, Virgil Clarkson Senior Center, Phase 3 development, and the Lacey Museum and Cultural Center. And then here at the bottom, you'll see a section called Other. And these are in the PCIP, but will be left out of the prioritization exercise for you guys because discussions have been started for these projects, but are really driven by outside factors that are not likely to happen in the next 6 years. So the PCIP is really just meant for the next 6 years. So the baseball stadium is a potential partnership with St. Martin's. And so there's a $1 million placeholder for that, that the city would contribute based on council's direction. But another one is the indoor sports facility is a potential partnership with the Nisqually Indian tribe. Karen Fraser Woodland Trail Corridor Master Plan, that would be driven by our Community and Economic Development Department with a focus on connection to trails and Lacey businesses. And the RAC Phase 3 development also is not one that we're asking you to prioritize. That one is through a funding source identified with the current Public Facilities District, which will only allow funding of that particular project. So it has a sunset. So that is separate funding that has to be used for that. So that's why we're
Question
not.
on that?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not sure I followed you on that. So for RAC funded through the Public Facilities District, which was a state sales tax credit for 20 or 25 years, are you saying that we're getting close to whatever that cutoff is for that funding source?
So there was an extension on that. It's a 15-year, so it extends it to 40, 15. You doing that right? Hold on.
It's okay.
Yeah, it extends that 25-year PF Public Facilities District to 15 if you issue debt on the original project. So it's allowable within the RAC project to do this. And the other facility you might be familiar with that's funded by that particular PFD is the Olympia Hands-on Children's Museum.
Right.
So so with that 15-year extension, both projects will be issuing new debt and doing some development for those. But it's, like Jenny said, it's a very narrow funding source for it's a specific purpose. And that project is already underway with the timeline, so.
It's the RAC.
Yeah, I know that when that statute was created, it only provided that for convention, conference and special event center. And then recreational facilities were added because of the Mission Ridge over in Wenatchee about to close, and the city of Wenatchee thought we might need to take it over. And so I know that the definition of how that can be funded is, as you know, widened substantially since the original statute. So with the refinancing the existing debt, you're saying that there's additional capacity to actually build more?
Yeah, so it's not due to refinancing, it's once you, so yeah, as long as you issue new debt on the same project before the last payment, I believe, is made, you can extend that 15 years. Yep, and yeah, Troy can answer other questions if you have more about the specifics of that when he comes next in a couple weeks, but yeah, that's the gist of it.
So as you can see, this is a pretty substantial, almost 63 million, and 2.2 million in added maintenance and operation funding just for new capital projects. So this is what the community is telling us they want.
Can we get this slide
Yes, after, we can,
and Jamie's too?
yes.
Could we get, like, you know, if you could go back, just like, I honestly couldn't speak to, I don't have young children anymore, whether, you know, the community could, like, spray parks are like, how many kids do we expect in proximity? Could we get some demographic data for Lacey to know? So I, you know, from personally, I wouldn't know whether a spray park would be popular or not. I wouldn't, and that's what I hope to bring, but in some of these things, like, I know pickleball is wildly popular at all ages, but I don't really know much about that either. So I would think that it'd be helpful for us to itemize this on, like, who does go to the Lacey Museum? What's maybe the typical person that will go there, age, gender, you know, place. It would be helpful to know who would like these things. Because I don't know whether, like, a spray park should be number one on the list, or, because I just don't know. I don't have small kids anymore that would love a spray park.
Right.
For example, Thurston County, North Thurston Public Schools has 15,000 students.
Yeah,
So, and that's just one of the schools in Thurston County.
yeah.
So knowing how many kids, elementary.
Yeah. I'm assuming it's like an elementary
And
kid
then the
thing, right?
percentage of military families that
Yeah.
compromise Lacey families or Lacey.
Be fascinating to know the numbers.
Yeah, because it's just like, I think that probably would be wildly popular, but it would be nice to be able to justify it with a little data.
Interesting to see if City of Olympia publishes their utilization, because they've invested in a handful of spray parks in the last few years.
Yeah.
I would also think that North Thurston Public Schools, each school could probably give you the data per school. Like I work for Nisqually Middle School, so I know we have 900,000 students there, right next to the rack, and so I feel like every single place would be able to give you that data. And I would tell you, I have 5, 7 and unders, and they would love the spray park. They do love those. And we're a military family too, so we have to go all the way up to base to go to the spray park.
I'm a grown-up person and I would like to go to spray.
Me too, yes. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind, I'll lay out there.
I think it would be
Like to take-
popular, but it would be, if we're gonna
That would be good.
pick that over something else, I think it would be nice to be able to justify selecting something like that. So I think it's just an easy
I
example.
can say when I was out doing these surveys, that was very, very popular, spray park.
I think too, the way that Olympia had to transition the art installation that
Yeah.
was the water fountain downtown into a public, they had to install water purification and stuff. Because people used the art installation as a spray
So
park
much.
all those years ago. And it was like a very unexpected expense for them to be like, oh shoot, we need to clean that water now.
And probably less expensive than a pool and such too,
Yeah.
so, but.
Oh, yeah, pools are very expensive.
Okay, so up next are, that wasn't the end. Now, those were the new things that folks wanted. And next are the replacement projects on the PCIP. Keep in mind, it's, again, a 6-year plan going through 2029. And as Jamie shared previously, there will be many additional replacement projects as things fail, and the total cost for all these projects is 6.5 million. And just a high level overview of just items that we know are in the six-year range. Obviously, Jamie shared deferred maintenance, that was like 3.2 million. And then the timeline of parks projects that would be like 10 million, so this is our replacement list.
Will user fees, like I think there are user fees at the rack and stuff, will those offset some of these, or are these anticipated costs in addition to user fees?
So the user fees, the rack brings in about $500,000 in fees every year. So it's subsidized, it's typically about a 60% subsidy.
But that's all for operating. None of that goes towards capital.
Well, right, correct. If you looked at it, yeah, it's a
I think you were
60.
talking, maybe thinking for, this is capital here.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, right. So, yeah, it goes toward the fees offset the operating cost,
Operating.
Are the
not the
fees,
replacements.
are the fees something that could be considered increased to go towards some of these capital improvements?
So, so the RAC does have a financial plan and there's a lot of different ideas, discussed in that plan. It's a great question. It's that balance of, I mean, yes, we're always looking for more opportunities, to provide, you know, more experiences that potentially there could be fees brought in for that. We have to keep the pricing so that people can still afford to participate. So it's that great balance. And the RAC also is pretty unique in that it, well, not unique, I guess, as far as parks departments go, but it definitely has, there's a side of the operation that brings in revenue, and then there's the open park side that is 100% subsidized where people can just show up. So it doubles as a open park and then the paid part of the experience as well. So there's some challenges there, but yes, always looking for opportunities.
So again, we're gonna do a deep dive into a lot of the details of the PCIP at our October 14th meeting. And coincidentally, that will be after our tour. A lot of these items will be on our tour, so you'll get to see some of the facilities firsthand. So we'll peel back the curtain to orient you to them. And yeah, do you have any questions? You had a question.
Not a question on this presentation, but for the next meeting. And you're gonna get into the weeds on all aspects of both operating and capital financing, state grants, all of that.
Well, yes, we'll talk about a lot of our, yes, we'll talk about sources of challenges, sources of our revenue, challenges, opportunities, yes.
And it's been so long since I've looked at that statute. Will you be able to tell us a little bit about metropolitan park districts and how they might provide us with an ongoing permanent revenue stream? And the city's history in looking at that and thinking about taking that to the voters?
Yeah, it's actually part of the slides that the finance director is gonna present. Yep. So. And then real quickly, we still have time for questions if you have, but this is one of the, this is Appendix M of the comprehensive plan. And so you were asking about amenities. So this lists the park properties, picnic tables, shelters, rental, if we allow rentals there, grills, toddler play equipment, children play equipment, swings, it's then the different types of fields, restrooms, skate park, types of trails, and then other amenities. So this is something, if you're interested, we can send this out too, if that's helpful.
Okay. Because it looks like it went close, but there's only 3 facilities that have the rental. Am I looking at the right column? Under the blue, under the rental picnics.
So so the picnic shelter is 1, 2, there are 3 sites. Yes, that's correct.
Available for rental.
That they're available for rental. So the other sites, they're just for some come for serve. And then the picnic shelter rentals sites, those are the sites where we have either staff at the site. So the RAC and Rainier Vista Park, there's actually staff there. And then Woodland Creek Park, we have staff close at the community center to help facilitate those and put out the signage for those. But and those are reservable during certain parts of the year, times of the year, the heavy use and nice weather times. Otherwise, it's all just first come, first serve. But yeah, the other sites, those are in neighborhood parks where, with the exception of Wonderwood, that's one of our bigger community parks, but there aren't rentals there. It's just first come, first served, so that the community can come and use it for free.
But that might be a source of something to look at for a source of revenue. There's more.
Always a potential. Let's see, how's that? What do we have next? Oh, oh, hey.
Is there?
No,
Did we ever get the slide working?
So we didn't get the slide working, but we do have, let's see, where would that be? Saved it in the file. Oh, okay. So that'll be yours, right? Are you logged in? You're logged in. I'll grab it real quick from this email. Oh, no. Seems to be locked up. It's very slow. Oh, I wonder what's going on. We're just lucky tonight, I guess. Swear. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I need to share my screen so the public can see it too. Right here. And of course, John and Philip can see it as well. Okay, so community being green and then you all being in the blue. Oh, so it looks like you all prioritized expanding walking trails. They look pretty close, swimming pool, 2 more indoor recreation facilities. We've got preserving open space next, and then more sports fields lower down, so kind of see how you compare. There, and then the other one is, let's see. Let me make this smaller. Easier to see there. It looks like continue to offer affordable recreation program. You agreed with the public there. Well, actually, let's see, you prioritize new indoor facilities at existing parks. Continuing affordable recreation programming and then securing additional parks next. So interesting observation here.
What is that one?
Your work group did not prioritize new outdoor features at existing parks. Compared to the public.
Into the cold months, if we teach them from the survey in the summer.
This one?
It definitely matters when you put the survey out, because if people say it's sunny outside and it feels good, a lot of people wanna do the outdoor stuff, and then when we've done it in the falls and winters, people are like, I want all indoor stuff. We're very seasonal.
Forget the rain.
Yeah, we are seasonal.
Looks like this group prioritized walking trails quite a bit.
Most of them identified more indoor recreation space. Even though it was in the summer.
Yeah.
But they knew that.
Just knowing that it rains 9 months,
Yes,
9 months out of the
yes.
year here. Yeah. Looks like this group prioritized turf sports fields, accessibility enhancements. And see, pretty close to the public here in these categories: enhanced water access, climbing walls, nature play areas. It looks like this group did not prioritize dog parks to the extent that the community did. Interesting. Looks like the community prioritized spray parks more than this group. This group prioritized community gardens and workout stations and trail amenities more than the public. And about the same with food and beverage vendors in parks. And about the same in shelters and covered areas. And the public prioritized picnic tables over this group as well. So let's see, one more. This group prioritized teen center more than the community and indoor swimming pool. So those, it looks like the highest from this group is teen center, then swimming pool, then indoor playgrounds, and then indoor soccer, indoor pickleball. The expanded senior center coming in pretty close to indoor playgrounds there from this group. So interesting, a couple of areas that this group did not prioritize: indoor volleyball, indoor tennis, and indoor batting cages compared to the community. So again, just kind of for fun, and hopefully it gives you a better sense of, you know, our park system and how kind of you're feeling compared to the community. And I think also just that reminder of, you know, putting our own preferences aside to that of what the public wants to, so.
And how many community members were this in the survey? For the
So
grade?
we had 1,200 responses.
We had 16 here at this table. 16.
Good sample size. It's 14.
14.
Plus 2 online. Or was that with?
I think 14 includes
14 total.
14 totally, yeah. So, well, thanks for doing that activity with us. So I'll turn it back over to you.
That was very enlightening. So we don't have any action items, correct? Then we are gonna officially adjourn at 7:10. Can I ask a follow-up? When you talk about
So much.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
And we talked about a little bit,
Good night,
does that
guys.
include like commutable trails, like to increase bicycle commutability of the city? Or is that like a secondary